Thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. There's a lot of views coming through as well on Citizen TV at Citizen TV Kenya. Trevor Mbija, hashtag Daybreak. Now let's tackle the elephant in the room. And Cherargei, I'll start with you on this. It's all over the dailies. It's the only thing you will see. New BBI bombshell, outrage over fake BBI bill. Counties received 2 versions of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. The one sent to most of the devolved units had errors, and that could now expose the referendum push to fresh legal hurdles. Cherargei, where do we go from here now? Seems people are reading from different documents.
I don't know. I watched yesterday that the chair, is it, or I don't know what the role Paul Mangi had in the BBI Secretariat. I don't know whether he was the co-chair or not,
The
or the late Senator Haji and Amos Wako. But the point is this, I have seen Secretariat inviting the DCI. This is very interesting to investigate why only 12 counties got the correct version. And I'm happy doing so, like Senator Kimani Wamatangi was the only one overworking, because I'm told Kiambu had the correct version. And the Senate and the National Assembly, the Vice Chair will confirm here, had also the wrong version. It is only Senate who had the correct function. And I saw in some interview in one of the media stations saying that he's calling in DCI to investigate. So my question is, why is the system and the deep state cannibalizing itself? Because this was a government project. It is casting serious aspersions to government in this process, because we know very well that even government resources was used. We saw the Ministry of Interior using GAO officers, National Government Administration officers. We saw MCAs being told, pass the BBI the way it is. Even they were never given opportunity. Even Kenyans, I wish this document had been allowed for public scrutiny. If we had done the public scrutiny, we would not be where we are. And it's unfortunate that we have, and I think the process of BBI now is jeopardy, because if only 12 counties got the correct version and others did not get the right version, I think, and I want to believe and have confidence and faith in the committee where my brother Tenda Molo sits, to be able to provide direction for the country. Number two, there was, and I agree that the committees of JLAC have an obligation, and Parliament does not exist in vain, because the legislative authority we have in the Constitution is very clear. Yeah. When you look even under Article 260 on the interpretation, they even under the popular initiative, it is not expressly provided that the Parliament cannot reopen and look at some of those issues. And I think looking into this BBI document, and I agree with my colleagues and the position that we hear from the JLAC among other members, and even within Parliament itself, that we must reopen. And even we saw where the Kenya Law Reform Commission or something like that say that you can edit, you can do it editorial of the BBI. But the big question now is shocking that the BBI version that we have, except the Senate and 12 counties, is correct version. And we hope the DCI will get to the bottom of this matter, is now putting the integrity. And it looks like, interestingly, there is some people within the system or within the government. For us who watch outside from outside the government, is that there are people who are within government and the system that are trying to sabotage the BBI. And it looks like they have been woodwinking Baba, Raila, by telling him there is a referendum, yet it is not there, yet they know very well. Number two, in fact, if you have seen, have you seen my friend Atuoli has disappeared from the scene? Because when you look at the membership, just give an example, membership, because Senate now has the correct version of BBI, when you look at the membership of Article 97(1)(c), the current constitution provides that in membership of National Assembly, apart from youth, people living with disability, they have power to nominate workers, have a representative. That's why we have people like Soshan and others who have been nominated because they are members of union. Under the BBI, the nomination specifically for workers has been removed. And no wonder Francis Atuoli has disappeared from the scene, because he realized he was conned in courts to support something that was working against the interest of workers. So I'm just using the example to show you where the deceit and deception of this BBI document is heading to the country. And I hope, I know my brother might not divulge the intrigues, but I remember even when we came for special sitting 1 or 2 weeks ago, the House business of the Senate wanted mischievously to put the BBI bill in the special sitting, yet there was no committee report that was ready. So you can imagine the intrigues that have been around, but I can see the people who believe in BBI, the people who thought that the positions being created for them, unfortunately, the road looks like it is Pambi, and it looks like some people are being played.
Okay.
Yes.
Wamatangi, does this throw the entire process into disarray now?
Well, two things I would want to say, Trevor. First, maybe the question that I think the committee will be answering to us, and I'm glad that Otiende Amolo is here. He'll tell us because he's in the committee. On this first question, which is principle, on what is the role of the committee, does Parliament exist and act in vain as far as the process is concerned? That question can be answered counter to, do county assemblies, which are the legislative bodies of the county, at the county level, do they exist in vain?
Yeah.
I mean, and so are we saying that, for example, when that bill was sent to them, if also they don't exist in vain as legislative bodies, should they have all gone to open that document and amend it in the 47 county assemblies as they found fit? That being a popular initiative. And if then that can be answered that they don't exist in vain, then that may come close to addressing this big question that's bringing about division, is to what extent then can the other legislative body, which is Parliament, open this document, and what would be the role and extent to which they would amend it? And I'm of the view that what they had said earlier, that they can amend, the issues that are about typos, about congruence of the document, about alignment of the document, all those they could. What, in my view, would be mischievous and counterproductive is to try and amend the substance of a document that was mobilized from the word go as a popular initiative that comes from the people, where views were given, including where we as Parliament gave views, and then that document proceeded to be discussed at county assemblies by the representatives and the people down there, where there was public participation. And then that document came back, passed by all those county assemblies. And then it is supposed to come to Parliament for Parliament to do what it should do. Okay. I think that must be addressed with absolute sobriety, so that we do not find ourselves in a situation whereby we will be the bottleneck in the process, that at the end of the day we know we have told Kenyans that there is a document here which you are supposed to decide upon, and yet now we become the ones who are going to decide upon it by bringing in amendments or another disagreement that would kill the document. Secondly, is I think we also need to come out clear on what are the big issues that are bringing about the so-called disagreements. And the first thing that I think I would want us to agree, Trevor, is that you saw the public ceremony when the document called the BBI was handed over to the IEBC. It was a public ceremony. And when that document was handed over, it was received by the chairperson of this IEBC. It was one document. And then it was the responsibility of that same IEBC to dispatch that same document to the 47 counties. At what point do we, or would we have an allegation that that document that was received by the chairperson to be transmitted by himself and his team then has ended up being a duplicated document, or one that has got different versions which have come back? You know, that is, if I was an investigator, those are questions I would be asking, very, very seriously. Now, lastly, is, if you listen to the grapevine, and it is important for us to be honest. One, politics has reared its ugly head in so many styles and versions and intrigues in the process of this document up to where it is right now. And I would be bold to say that I would want our colleagues in Parliament to shun introducing either sectarian, personal, party, political interest into the document or into the final outcome of this, because that is where you find that somebody will be proposing some amendment there, some opening here, some version of this, so that they can realize what political interest they represent. And definitely we all must agree that whatever the outcome of that document, would have political implications for different sections and different interests.
Okay.
What we'll be asking ourselves is, what interest would override all our other interests? And that is the interest of the nation and the people and what they want. There has been a lot of debate, you know, in the undercurrent. And because we are here, you also hear it, you feel it. I said here the last time, if you listen to the grapevine, you hear that there are stories about, oh, this BBI has come to introduce and give and gift certain regions of this country with so many constituencies. Why should they, you know, be the ones to get all these constituencies? What are we getting? And this kind of thing. And because the same people sitting in, for example, some of those committees, others were in decision-making, you know, positions in the process. Some of them may come from some of the regions where there are those kind of questions, including the question of who will be receiving what when these amounts are devolved at maybe 35%. Those questions now bring in, or they accentuate, they bubble up the interests which are sectarian. And that's why I would want to finalize by telling our colleagues, because, you know, we told Kenyans that we have a document we want you to decide upon. Why don't we just let it be the decision of Kenyans, and then we can deal with our political interests later.
Okay, Mutua?
Very quickly. You see, this has been called a process. It's not a destination, it's a process. And the reason, you know, when the bill was published, we could have directly gone to a referendum. Why did it have to go through the process of going to the county assemblies, come to parliament and others? It's because it's a process of making it better. The county assemblies discuss the bill, but they send it to parliament with memorandums. And parliament has been considering those memorandums. Parliament then went ahead and asked for public participation. Why? Because there's always room for improvement. Let us not lock ourselves up to think that what we have is best, na ifungwe kabisa.
Correct.
That is arrogant. There's always room for improvement. And somebody once said, and a friend of mine always reminds me this, that a better idea, a good idea always has to give room for a better idea. And so I don't have a problem myself looking at some sections. Otiendo Molo has pointed out that there are some things nobody thought about. For example, that the IBC brought forth about boundaries, about the time it will take to change boundaries. So they maybe need some changes, substantial changes in those sections. Does not mean that the BBI is wrong. Does not mean that Kenyans don't want the BBI. What you want is, let's get room to fix a few things and make it better for all Kenyans. This document is not for a certain group of politicians or others. It is for all Kenyans. On this issue of the sabotage, I think it's also sensationalist. What's that word again?
Sensational.
You know, are these errors substantial? Are they a form of conspiracy? Or are they clerical inefficiencies? I get letters sent to me even from big organizations with clerical errors. There are 3 errors being mentioned in the papers here. Error number 1, instead of saying Article 87, subsection 7, it says 89(7), which does not exist.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's a clerical error. Somebody typed the wrong thing. The second one, it refers to clause 3 of Article 97 instead of clause 2 of Article 97. So it's basically a typo. Number 3, it's talking about amend Article 188 instead of said amend Article 189. So when people of Kenya look at all these headlines, they think that the BBI versions were all changed, that they have been rechanged, words were removed, expressions were put in, new things were added. No, it's basically one went with errors that was maybe printed in a hurry, and then when the errors were gotten, there were corrections done that went to the right counties. So people need to realize if they are minor clerical errors, they are not really substantial issues that counties have been changed from I don't know how many to how many. They're very many. And lastly, you know, majority of Kenyans are young. And we have looked at all these games being played up and down. And we're asking ourselves, you know, to whose benefit are all these games being played? You know, maybe people are looking at the benefits of the BBI. Many people are looking at maybe they're opposed to the BBI. We are saying, let Parliament fix the document. Bring us a document that makes sense so that we can support it. I'm a big support of the BBI because of the things that I see are advantageous to counties, to the youth in terms of taxation, to removing bureaucracy and growing this economy. And I'll be, you know, it will be better for future leaders who will be taking over. But let us not close our minds and say it is either or. We are not in a country of either or. We are a dynamic country where majority of the people of this country are young and suffering, and they want better things for their lives.
Dr. Tiende, you're the Vice Chair for JLIC. I know you're a bit measured on this, but you have the final 4 minutes to close this debate for us.
Yes, for obvious reasons, I will not be very forthright on this issue, as I usually am.
Forthright or limited?
Because we are currently considering those very same issues. We've had a discussion for 3 days. We have 2 more days to go, today and tomorrow. And so I cannot express myself so wholly on this while I'm part of the committee. It's even against the standing orders. But let me, in my 4 quick comments, let me pay reference to page 5 of the standard. And the first comment is, I agree with my colleague, Honorable Shamala, in decrying the fact that as we are discussing, the things that we've not even made decisions on are finding their way to the media. I think it speaks, and it's something we're going to discuss even today. It's not good for us, because it means there are colleagues who are not there to have substantive discussions. They are there as sieves, you know, to pass information. That's not good.
You don't think we deserve to know?
No.
Kenyans deserve to know.
You deserve to know the outcome of our deliberations, not the questions that are posed. Because then, as Governor Mutua is saying, you see, like the headlines make it look like there's some big issue around those things. In truth, and I'll demonstrate that, there are no big issues around it. Anyway, the second thing, again, still on page 5, and I said this last week, there's this running narrative, and there's some people or some group of people who keep insisting there are these serious disagreements within the committee. We've never had any disagreement up to now. And they even push it further and now say, you know, it's now between the Senate and the National Assembly, we'll have separate reports. I don't know where they get all that from. That's my first point. My second point is that the truth is, the role of Parliament cannot be ceremonial. It cannot be.
Here, here.
Correct.
And just to make this clear to my brother and client, Senator Matangi, the difference between the role of the county assemblies and the role of Parliament arises from the Constitution. That is Article 94. Anyone who cares can look at Article 94.1, 94.3, and 94.5. The summary of them is this, that nothing can be law in this country without the stamp of the Senate and the National Assembly. And that includes the Constitution. So therefore, the role placed on Parliament, the 2 institutions, is much higher than the county assembly. If, for example, today, and it is possible, if today somebody came with an amendment saying the presidency will only rotate among 4 tribes, the biggest, the Kikuyu, the Luyas, the Luos, and the Kambas, for the next 100 years. I mean, they're allowed to propose that, isn't it? Ideally, between the 4, you can get 24 counties to endorse. Okay? And therefore, it will come to Parliament. It must be then Parliament to interrogate whether that amendment is constitutional, whether it keeps with the principles of constitutionalism. Okay? So Parliament has that role of looking at first, are these amendments in line with the constitutional principles that we have already? Secondly, has the process been constitutional? And those are some of the things that we have to do. The third point I want to make, though, is now in terms of the headlines. First, even those who are leaking what we are discussing, they are inverting it. Like right now, they say that only 12 counties got the right version, The others didn't. As a matter of fact, and without going into the details of what we are discussing, it is the converse. It is alleged, and we are still examining it, that 12 counties may not have gotten the right version, but at least 35 counties got the right version. But those 35 counties, all of them in any event, are the ones that passed it. So even if you are to examine that issue, it's a non-issue because the Constitution requires only 24. Okay? And we can deal with it in any other issue. In any event, secondly, and as Governor Mutua says, and I think even Senator Wamatangi, there are small issues in terms of typos here and there.
Yeah.
The question is, can Parliament, under its authority in Article 94, correct typos, like when you intended to say 2 or 3? We are discussing that.
Yeah.
But there are two options on it. One, we can agree that we have the authority to correct errors of form and typos, and then go ahead and do it. Or we can decide that let Parliament just pass the document as it is, but because errors of form and typo do not require referendum, we can immediately then bring a motion in both houses to correct those ones. Okay. So the issues are not as major as they appear to be. My last point is that this is a process under Article 257. It is an amendment by popular initiative, and it has taken basically 5 stages. The first stage is the idea, and the idea was conceived by His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga at the handshake. That was the genesis. The second stage was now the promotion stage, which involved the stage of the team collecting views and even coming up to now the promoters, and they presented the bill. The third stage was presenting it to the counties, and we will interrogate how IBC could have missed 1 or 2 things. Those ones we're interrogating. Then the fourth stage now is for Parliament. And people must allow Parliament to do its work. Okay? Because everybody has their stage. But in any event, the final stage, and that is inevitable, is the referendum. No matter what we do in Parliament, a document must go to the referendum. And that will be the final say.
So it will not be disarray. Dr. Tienda Molo, JLAC Vice Chair and MP for Arieda, Dr. Kimani Wamatangi, no comments. Majority Whip Senator It started like that, and Tienda was the last one.
Yes, but the discussion was on the BBI. You were supposed to make closing comments.
No, guys, thank you so much. We ran out of time. Let's take that break right now. Thank you so much.